Those are India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. India introduces legislation to remove ministers, including the country's Prime Minister, facing arrest for 30 days on criminal charges. Another bill passed to regulate online real money gaming in the country. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to hold bilateral talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Russia says it will continue supplying oil to India. And US President Donald Trump rules out putting troops on the ground but says may provide air support to back Ukraine peace deal. The ongoing monsoon session of India's parliament on Wednesday was marked by uproar and protests by the opposition. But the Lok Sabha still managed to table and clear key pieces of legislation, including bills aimed at political accountability and regulation of online gaming. The Rajya Sabha took up an educational bill as well. DD India's Dibyendu Mondal reports.
Both houses of the Indian Parliament convened at 11 a.m. on Wednesday amidst uproar and repeated disruptions from the opposition bench. As protests intensified, both Lok Sabha, the lower house, and the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, were adjourned till post-lunch. When the Lok Sabha reconvened at 2 p.m., Union Home Minister Amit Shah introduced three crucial bills: the Constitution 113th Amendment Bill 2025, the Government of Union Territories Amendment Bill 2025, and the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill 2025. The bills aim to bring accountability into politics, stipulating that if any chief minister, union minister, or even the prime minister faces custody beyond 30 days in a criminal case, they would automatically lose their post. This triggered a massive uproar from the opposition, forcing another adjournment till 3 p.m. Later, Amit Shah moved that the bills be referred to a joint parliamentary committee for wider consultations, and the Lok Sabha referred the bills to the JPC.
मैं प्रस्ताव करता हूं कि भारत के संविधान का संशोधन करने वाला विधेयक, संघ राज्य क्षेत्र शासन अधिनियम 1963 का संशोधन करने वाला विधेयक तथा जम्मू कश्मीर पुनर्गठन अधिनियम 2019 का संशोधन करने वाले विधेयकों को माननीय अध्यक्ष जी द्वारा नाम निर्दिष्ट किए जाने वाले इस सभा के 21 सदस्य और माननीय उपसभापति द्वारा नाम निर्दिष्ट किए जाने वाले राज्यसभा के 10 सदस्यों को मिलकर बनने वाली संयुक्त समिति को सौंपा जाए.
The Lok Sabha then turned its attention to another landmark legislation, the Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Bill 2025. Introduced by Union Minister for Electronics and IT, Ashwini Vaishnav, the bill seeks to encourage esports and educational games while putting a complete ban on harmful online money games. The bill provides for setting up a national-level regulatory authority, protecting vulnerable sections from predatory practices and safeguarding India's digital sovereignty.
सरकार प्रमोट करना चाहती है ई स्पोर्ट्स को, ऑनलाइन सोशल गेमिंग को. उसके लिए अथॉरिटी बनाएंगे, गेम मेकर्स को सहायता देंगे, स्कीम करेंगे. और इस बिल में भी प्राथमिकता दी गई है समाज के कल्याण को, और समाज में जो बहुत एक बड़ी बुराई आ रही है उससे बचने के लिए ये बिल लाया गया. माननीय अध्यक्ष जी,
The bill strikes a fine balance, promoting innovation and digital creativity while protecting society from the risks of unregulated online betting and money gaming. The government says it will empower the youth, boost creative economy, and strengthen India's role in responsible digital policy making. Meanwhile, in the Rajya Sabha, the Indian Institute of Management Bill 2025 was tabled to establish a new IIM in Assam, granting it the status of an institute of national importance. With key legislations moved and passed, both houses were adjourned to meet again at 11 a.m. on Thursday. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
And India's video gaming industry has welcomed government support and growth initiatives for esports. The head of global esports at Nodwin Gaming, Nimish Raut, and Cyberpower PC India's Chief Operating Officer, Vishal Parekh, lauded the online gaming bill and said that the bill will promote and regulate esports, educational and social games.
The Online Gaming Bill 2025 is such a landmark step in the Indian gaming industry. It now categorizes esports and gives it separate identity as a pure form of sport. Esports, and it was much needed because it has been a sport. It has been something which is not just on luck, but pure form of skill, teamwork and discipline.
ये जो constant back and forth होता था, ये जो confusion था कि online real money gaming, online gaming और esports में जो differentiation है, ये इस बिल के बाद ये कोई प्रॉब्लम अभी आगे जाके किसी को आएगा नहीं. We are very, very thankful as an industry. We want to focus on esports. We want to focus on competitive gaming.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who is visiting Moscow, interacted with Russian scholars and think tanks on Wednesday. They discussed India-Russia relations, contemporary world geopolitics, and India's viewpoint. Earlier in the day, Minister Jaishankar paid tributes at Moscow's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. He is expected to co-chair the 26th India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation. He will also address the India-Russia Business Forum in Moscow. The minister will meet his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov for reviewing the bilateral agenda and sharing perspectives on regional and global issues. The visit aims to further strengthen the long-standing and time-tested India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. All right, joining us from Moscow is RT's correspondent Farida. Farida, what are the key highlights so far and what can one expect from Minister Jaishankar's talks with Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Manturov?
India's Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar has arrived in Moscow for a 3-day visit in order to strengthen ties between India and Russia. Now, this visit comes just as global tensions are rising, specifically those between the US and India. Now, the main event of the visit is the 26th annual India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission that will be held today, and Jaishankar will co-chair it with Russia's first Deputy Prime Minister, Denis Manturov. It's said that their talks will cover a range of subjects including technology, fertilizer, trade and cultural collaboration. Now, India-Russia trade hit a record of 68.7 billion USD last year. That's nearly 6 times pre-2022 levels, and it's mainly due to India's import of energy from Russia. Both countries have agreed to diversify trade and reach levels of 100 billion USD by 2030. Now, on Thursday, Subramanyam Jaishankar will meet with his Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and it's said that a dialogue between them will cover a broad strategic agenda, including ongoing global conflicts, regional security and stability, and coordination in multilateral forums such as BRICS and SCO. Now, Jaishankar's visit comes just as recently the US placed an additional 25% tariff on India due to India's ongoing oil trade with Russia. However, India has emphasized that buying oil for support its 1.4 billion population and has denied any reports of it stopping its purchases of oil from Russia. Now, this trip is seen as a signal of India maintaining its independent foreign policy and keeping its options open. Now, India-Russia ties appear to be strengthening as we're seeing numerous high-level talks between officials. Just 2 weeks ago, India's National Security security advisor Ajit Doval visited Sergei Shoigu here in Moscow. We've seen numerous talks between Narendra Modi and Vladimir Putin, as well as Putin's confirmed trip to India towards the end of the year. Now, this suggests that partnership between India and Russia is really strengthening, and we're seeing cooperation not only for balancing strategic dialogue, but also on global issues such as the Ukraine conflict.
All right, we'll leave there for now. Farida, thank you. Farida reporting there from Moscow. In the meantime, we're getting some latest visuals for you from Moscow of Minister Jaishankar's talks with Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Manturov. These are the latest visuals coming to you from Moscow as part of Minister Jaishankar's ongoing visit to Russia. Now, the Russian embassy in India held a press briefing on Wednesday to mark the 25th anniversary of the Russia-India strategic partnership and the 78th anniversary of diplomatic relations. It highlighted the increasing cooperation with BRICS, particularly in the financial sphere, driven by the need for safer transactions and mutual benefit. It emphasized BRICS' role as a stabilizing force in a turbulent global environment, with trade among its members growing significantly.
The trade within BRICS is growing against the backdrop of the current turbulence. For example, Russia's trade with BRICS partners has increased by 70.5% in the previous year. And the point is that the more challenging and unpredictable the global environment becomes, the more relevant BRICS becomes as a stabilizing force and a center of gravity for those who are seeking a mutually beneficial cooperation, grounded in respect for sovereignty and diversity.
The briefing also touched upon stable and growing trade relations between India and Russia. Now, Russia is India's fourth largest trading partner. Despite external pressures and sanctions, the Russia-India trade is expected to continue growing at an annual rate of about 10%. The briefing also touched upon the importance of maintaining the bilateral trade in oil and the potential use of national currencies in settlements amid declining trust in global currencies such as the US dollar and the euro.
It's the main item of our export, but nevertheless we see the tendency when number and range of goods, commodities is increasing. And besides that, we see that, and I wanted to highlight that despite political situation, we can predict that the same level of oil import, crude oil import, will be approximately the same.
India and the Eurasian Economic Union, comprising Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, the Kyrgyz Republic and the Russian Federation, signed the terms of reference in Moscow on Wednesday to launch negotiations on a free trade agreement. The terms of reference were signed by an additional secretary in India's Department of Commerce and the Deputy Director of the Eurasian Economic Commission's Trade Policy Department. During his visit, the Indian official called on the minister in charge of trade at the Eurasian Economic Commission as well. Both sides noted the growing trade turnover between India and the EAEU, which stood at $69 billion in 2024, registering a 7% increase over 2023. With a combined GDP of $6.5 trillion, the proposed FTA is expected to expand market access for Indian exporters, support diversification into new sectors and geographies, effectiveness against non-market economies, and deliver significant benefits for micro, small, and medium enterprises. India slammed Pakistan at the UN Security Council over forced religious conversions of thousands of vulnerable women and girls. Addressing the open debate on conflict-related sexual violence, Indian diplomat Eldos Matthew reminded the UNSC about the violations by the Pakistan Army on Bangladeshi women in 1971, at a time when Pakistan is sitting on as a non-permanent UNSC member. He said that the atrocities by Pakistan continue unabated.
Mr. President, before I conclude, I would like to briefly address the baseless allegation raised by the delegate of Pakistan. The utter impunity with which Pakistan Army perpetrated heinous crimes of gross sexual violence against hundreds of thousands of women in erstwhile East Pakistan in 1971 is a matter of shameful record. This deplorable pattern continues unabated and with impunity to this day. Rampant abduction, trafficking, child early and forced marriages and domestic servitude, sexual violence and forced religious conversions of thousands of vulnerable women and girls as weapons of persecution towards religious and ethnic minority communities are reported and chronicled, including in the recent OHCHR reports. These reports highlight that the vile acts by Pakistan are also validated by its judiciary. It is ironical that those who perpetrate these crimes are now masquerading as champions of justice. The duplicity and hypocrisy is self-evident.
Asserting that a multifaceted approach is the need of the hour in today's times when the world grapples with various conflicts, the diplomat said that the focus should be on adopting survivor-centric approach in prevention and response mechanisms. He said that India has taken several steps to deal with the issue and is ready to share its experiences.
Underlining the seriousness attached to the issue by India, Prime Minister Modi joined the Circle of Leadership on the prevention of and response to sexual exploitation and abuse in United Nations operations. In our experience, the female engagement teams that India deployed in peacekeeping missions across conflict zones have been tremendously successful in connecting with local communities, addressing gender-sensitive issues, engaging with victims, and enhancing the effectiveness of peacekeeping operations.
Still to come on DD India Newshour. Israel's military is finalizing its plans for the seizure of Gaza City. "17 children among 71 killed in Afghanistan bus accident." And Indonesia hosts Germany's foreign minister for talks.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. In a major boost to India's defense sector, the intermediate-range ballistic missile Agni-5 was successfully test-fired on Wednesday. The testing took place from the integrated test range in Chandipur, Odisha. The launch validated all operational and technical parameters. It was carried out under the aegis of the Strategic Forces Command. Impact of technology on warfare. That's the theme of a seminar to be held this month at the Army War College at Mau. Armed Forces personnel will be speaking at the event, although think tanks, academia, veterans and civilians will be attending and giving their views and feedback. It will become an annual fixture from this year onwards.
This one will focus purely on war, warfare and war fighting. We will attempt to arrive from the seminar with practical takeaways and doables, so that we see whatever technology is impacting our day-to-day war-fighting capability and the way we do business. How do we incorporate that into our training, into our tactics, techniques, procedures, into our organizational structures, so that whatever technological influx is happening into the Indian Armed Forces, how do we best use it to our advantage?
We, in the ancient times, were a Vishwaguru. We want India to lead the debate on this strategic dialogue of future wars. We want to reclaim that spot of Vishwaguru, and that is the intent behind the commencement of this dialogue called Ran Samvad. An exchange of concepts, best practices, innovative approach, and a platform for serving officers to present their views at fighting future battles is what we are wanting to achieve.
The combined index of India's 8 core industries increased by 2% in July this year compared to the same month of the previous year. This according to data released by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry on Wednesday. According to the official statement, the production of steel, cement, fertilizer and electricity recorded positive growth in July this year. The 8 core industries comprise 40.27% of the weight of items included in the Index of Industrial Production and are an indicator of the overall industrial growth. The NDA candidate C.P. Radhakrishnan filed his nomination papers on Wednesday for the post of Vice President of India. The nomination was filed at Parliament House and was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who acted as the chief proposer in the first set of nomination papers. BJP President J.P. Nadda and Home Minister Amit Shah, among others, accompanied Mr. Radhakrishnan. The nomination was submitted in 4 sets, each containing the signatures of 20 proposers and 20 seconders. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is Mr. Radhakrishnan's campaign manager, while Minister Kiren Rijiju will serve as his election agent. The vice presidential election is scheduled for the 9th of September. The nomination comes just days after Prime Minister praised Mr. Radhakrishnan, describing him as a leader with dedication, humility and intellect who has consistently worked towards empowering the marginalized communities. C.P. Radhakrishnan, currently serving as the Governor of Maharashtra, is a senior BJP leader with decades of experience in legislative and administrative roles. A former lawmaker from the state of Tamil Nadu, he is known for his strong grassroots connect and focus on social uplift. Israel is finalizing plans for the seizure of Gaza City, but it is yet to respond to Tuesday's ceasefire proposal. The White House, meanwhile, says the U.S. is still reviewing the truce deal after Hamas accepted it. DD India's Trippi Tripathi has more.
Tensions remain high in the West Asia as Israel is expected to issue its formal response by Friday to a Gaza ceasefire proposal that Hamas has accepted on Tuesday. As talks on a deal continue, the Israel Defense Forces is also finalizing its plan for the seizure of Gaza City, which would significantly tighten Israel's grip on the area and limit Hamas's ability to operate there. Despite the announcement, ground offense continues to impact thousands in Gaza. On Wednesday, Israeli Defense Forces released footage of drone strikes on terror cells that attacked military camps in Khan Yunis. At least 10 of the operatives were killed by the troops, while 8 managed to flee back into the tunnel. The Tuesday framework that Hamas had approved proposes an initial 60-day truce, a staggered hostage release, the freezing of some Palestinian prisoners, and provisions allowing for the entry of aid into Gaza. However, Israel remains firm on release of all its hostages at one go to end the conflict. Meanwhile, White House said that the development came after Trump posted a very strong statement about the conflict on social media platform Truth Social.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Hamas accepted this proposal after the President of the United States posted a very strong statement about this conflict on Truth Social yesterday. I would refer you back to that statement. As for this proposal that Hamas has now accepted, the United States continues to discuss it, and I'll let the President weigh in on it definitively.
Israel and Hamas have held on of indirect negotiations throughout the conflict, resulting in 2 short truces during which Israeli hostages were released in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
Indonesia's foreign minister met his German counterpart in Jakarta on Wednesday. The Indonesian minister said that Jakarta and Berlin are looking to strengthen trade and investment cooperation ahead of the Indonesia-EU Trade Pact in 2026. Germany's foreign minister in turn reiterated Germany's commitment along with Japan in supporting Indonesia's implementation of the Just Energy Transition Program.
We both hope that the implementation of the Indonesia-EU CEPA, which is targeted for completion in 2026, will further expand opportunities for cooperation, particularly in the economic field between the two countries, increase trade and investment, and I also express Indonesia's willingness and openness to increase investments and invite Germany to increase investment together with Danantara.
Keterbukaan Indonesia untuk
Speaking about tensions in the Taiwan Strait and disputes in the South China Sea, Germany's foreign minister said that China's assertiveness threatens international security and European interests. The German minister said that what happens in the Indo-Pacific has a direct impact on European security and vice versa.
Here in the Indo-Pacific has a direct impact on European security and vice versa. China's growing military assertiveness in the South China Sea not only threatens Asia's security, but also undermines the international rules-based order.
Meanwhile, Indonesia's central bank unexpectedly announced a cut in its key interest rate on Wednesday in a bid to boost economic growth, just days after President Prabowo Subianto touted an expectation-defying economy. Bank Indonesia lowered the benchmark 7-day reverse repurchase rate by 25 basis points to 5%, citing a need to bolster stability and growth. It was the 5th cut since September, and it comes after Indonesia recorded positive second quarter economic results of more than 5% growth after Prabowo's government set an ambitious goal of 8% when he took office last year. Bank Indonesia had projected at the start of the year that economic growth would be slower in 2025 compared to the last year. A bus accident in Afghanistan's Herat killed 71 people, of which 17 are reported to be children. The accident occurred on Tuesday night local time, with a bus catching fire which claimed many lives. The Taliban government released a video of the bus showing firefighters trying to put out the flames. The bus was reportedly carrying deported migrants to Kabul, and it caught fire after colliding with a truck and a motorcycle. And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. Germany's Cologne witnessed the opening of the biggest game trade fair called Gamescom. It's a big festival that includes esports, cosplay, concerts, and everything around gaming culture. Scientists in Serbia experimented with mealworms as a way to break down polystyrene. According to a scientist at Belgrade's Institute for Biology, they discovered that mealworms can digest polystyrene, which is used in packaging, insulation, and food containers. The project was endorsed by the Serbian government as well as the UNDP. Taiwan Automation Intelligence and Robot Show 2025 saw humanoid robots walking and picking up objects. The show kicked off in Taipei on Wednesday with AI chip giant NVIDIA's branding featured prominently across multiple displays at the exhibition. Sweden's Kiruna Church was moved to a new home on Wednesday. This was done to make way for the expansion of the world's largest underground iron ore mine. People watched as the 113-year-old church completed its 5-kilometer journey. The move is part of a 30-year project to relocate thousands of people and buildings from Lapland city. Still to come on DD India Newshour. An expert take on the moves currently underway to bring the Ukraine-Russia conflict to an end.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India introduces legislation to remove ministers, including the country's Prime Minister, facing arrest for 30 days on criminal charges. Another bill passed to regulate online real money gaming in the country. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to hold bilateral talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Russia says it will continue supplying oil to India. And US President Trump rules out putting troops on the ground, but says may provide air support to back Ukraine peace deal. Efforts for holding security talks for Ukraine are gaining momentum. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Moscow is in favor of reliable security guarantees for Ukraine. But he said that any security talks without Moscow is a road to nowhere. DD India's Fuzail Ahmed reports.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday expressed Moscow's readiness to discuss the political aspects of a settlement with Ukraine, but added any security talks without Moscow is a road to nowhere.
I believe that the West, and especially the US, understands perfectly well that seriously discussing security issues with the Russian Federation is completely unrealistic and a road to nowhere.
Earlier, the White House said that the United States can assist in the coordination of security guarantees for Ukraine.
Sure. Well, you got to the heart of what I was going to say to all of you today on security guarantees, which is the president has definitively stated U.S. boots will not be on the ground in Ukraine, but we can certainly help in the coordination and perhaps provide other means of security guarantees to our European allies.
German government officials emphasized the need for robust security guarantees in discussions of a potential peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia.
The point is that if, and this is very big, if a peace agreement is ultimately reached, we must prevent the Russian side from using this peace agreement merely to gain time and then, at a later date, restart its initial objectives, which it has clearly been pursuing, namely to take Ukraine. Security guarantees are intended to prevent this.
These developments came as United States and NATO military officials were set to meet on Wednesday to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. On Monday, Donald Trump promised in Washington that the US would provide security guarantees as part of any settlement with Russia. But while diplomatic talks are on for peace in the region, both Ukraine and Russia continue to level charges of attacks against each other, reporting destruction of critical infrastructure and sometimes even casualties. Fuzail Ahmed's report, DD India.
And joining us to make sense of the current state of play in Russia-Ukraine ties and what it means for the world at large is Ambassador Anil Wadhwa. Ambassador Wadhwa is a former Indian envoy to Italy, Thailand, Oman, Poland and Lithuania. At the Ministry of External Affairs, he also looked after India's relations with Russia and East European countries. Ambassador Wadhwa, welcome to DD India Newshour. Now, to begin with, how do you assess recent moves to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict? What do you make of the statements coming out of both Moscow and Kyiv? Ambassador Wadhwa, are you with us? Can you hear me? Or I will try to fix that line with Ambassador Wadhwa in just a bit. But we are about to discuss the moves underway to bring the Ukraine-Russia conflict to an end. And who better than Ambassador Wadhwa to give you, the viewer, a sense of the current state of play and what the moves mean for India and the world at large, given the stakes involved in the peace in Ukraine. We've seen the US President host his Russian counterpart for talks in Alaska, and followed by his meetings with President Zelensky, as you can see on your screens right now, and also the other European leaders, including the NATO chief, the leaders of the UK, France, and Germany, among others. So moves are afoot to bring the Ukraine-Russia conflict to an end, it seems. Whether they will make progress or not remains to be seen. But at the moment, as things stand now, the world remains optimistic of a breakthrough in the near future. Right, I'm told Ambassador Wadhwa is back with us. Ambassador Wadhwa, I meant to ask you, how do you assess recent moves to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict? What do you make of these statements coming out of Moscow and Kyiv?
So I think the groundwork has been laid, in my opinion. Both Ukraine and Russia at the moment seem to be professing the right kind of views on trying to achieve peace in the future.
Okay.
And President Trump has got a lot invested into the process. So I have a feeling that, having heard both sides, he should be able to make sure that the trilateral meeting that he's been talking about comes about sooner rather than later. And I think the Europeans themselves are on board. Of course, they have reservations about the whole process and the security guarantees. As far as Europe is concerned, that's their main point. But I think it's quite clear that, those can be met halfway. In my opinion, I think we are moving towards the right direction.
Ambassador Wadhwa, delving deeper into the issues you've just raised, let's talk a bit now, if you will, about US-Russia relations to begin with. Trump hosted Putin for a summit. Is a US-Russia grand bargain on the cards, a reset of sorts in US-Russia ties?
There is, of course, a possibility of that happening once there is, a solution to the Ukraine crisis. And obviously, the US probably expects that there should be some results of its efforts with the peace process that it is trying to indulge in. And I have a feeling that there is much more that meets the eye, and there is something that President Putin also would have talked to the US President about in terms of the future relationship with the United States, which is a much bigger stake than what is there as far as Europe is concerned and Ukraine is concerned.
Ambassador Wadhwa, if we were to take a step back and look at the world map, as it were, and go over the events of the last 3.5 years in particular, we can safely say that Biden pushed Putin into an even tighter embrace with Xi Jinping. So my question to you is this: can Trump wean Russia away from China?
I think that looks like a difficult proposition, at least in the short to medium term.
Okay.
Perhaps in the long term, that might be one of the objectives, because there is a lot going right now between Russia and China. So to expect that will happen once this peace agreement is signed between Ukraine and Russia, it's a little far-fetched. I think it will take some time for trust to be restored. Russia will also watch how things go as far as the Europeans are concerned, and how the relationship with Ukraine progresses. So we have to be patient about that. but we don't know how this will play out in the long term. Right now, the relationship between China and Russia is strong, and I have a feeling in the medium term, in the short to medium term, it should continue to be that.
Right. Let's now look at it from an Indian perspective, Ambassador Wadhwa. What are the prospects, in your estimation, of a Russia, India, China trilateral? Is it good for India? How will it benefit New Delhi?
Something which has been talked about quite frequently, and the revival of that kind of a relationship. Frankly, there are too many contradictions which exist between India and China at the moment. Of course, there's been a thaw with the recent visit of Wang Yi to India, and Prime Minister Modi will be in China in the near future for the SCO summit. There will also be a bilateral which will be closely watched around capitals in the world. But I would say that to have, even if the trilateral does take place, the kind of adjustments that is feared by many in the Western world or in the United States, that's a little far off. I think what will happen is that all parties will try to gauge each other. How the world relationship develops over the next few months is very crucial, because everything is fluid right now. Nobody can determine how these relationships will fall in place once the current peace process between Russia and Ukraine gets into fruition, and the follow-up which happens thereafter.
Fair enough. If I were to go back to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, Ambassador, can and should New Delhi play its part in bringing peace to Ukraine, host peace talks maybe?
We would like to do that, of course, but it depends on the parties concerned.
Right.
And I think, India would be, of course, a good partner to do that, because we have good relationship with Russia as well as with Ukraine. But it all depends upon, how the United States looks at it and how the Europeans would look at that. And we have to choose, depending on, before making a proposal of that sort, to gauge the situation of how it is in the world.
And delving deeper into India-Russia ties, Ambassador, we're getting the latest visuals from Moscow. Minister Jaishankar's talks there, including with Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Manturov. The minister also addressed the Russian scholars and think tanks a short while ago. What do you expect from the minister's ongoing visit to Moscow?
I think it's going to be a good visit. It's going to be very productive.
Okay.
Because we've been expecting that there would be some important decisions taken, and already we have some reports about the fact that there's been a reiteration of the Russian support for on the question of energy relationship with India. I don't think that is something which India will go back on, because it's very important to keep that strategic autonomy in place as far as our energy resources and our purchases of energy from around the world are concerned. India has made it quite clear in the recent past. But other than that, I think it's the other long-term relationship with Russia. Also, the visit from President Putin is due into India, and these visits by our National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval, and now the External Affairs Minister, are important visits in that context. These are all preparatory visits, as we call them, as well, because what we're going to agree upon during a summit is important, because the groundwork has to be laid much before. So I would expect that this visit is going to be an important visit, and it will lead to some concrete results.
Indeed. And talking about summits, Ambassador Wadhwa, Prime Minister Modi could, and I'm choosing my words carefully, could meet President Putin on the margins of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization soon. And President Putin himself is expected to visit India later this year. Can India-Russia relations withstand Trump's policies?
Look, I think we should not mix up, the platforms with what the relationship between India and the other countries are concerned, because this SCO is a different platform altogether. It has its own dynamic, its own processes. And if there are if there are leaders who are meeting over there on the sidelines of this meeting, then that's only natural that they come together, and after all, they have a very sound relationship with each other.
Right.
We are not talking here about ganging up or in terms of opposing any particular country, but we're talking about important bilaterals which take place normally on the margins of such meetings. So if it does take place, I think we should take it in that light and not read too much into that.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I will have to leave it at that. Ambassador Wada, pleasure as always to talk to you and have you join this discussion to break it down for our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. Right, moving on to some other news now. US President Trump called on Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to step down on Wednesday, intensifying his effort to gain influence over the central bank. On social media platform Truth Social, Trump wrote that Cook must resign now. A close Trump ally has accused Lisa Cook of potentially committing mortgage fraud. Cook is one of 3 Biden appointees to the Fed whose terms extended beyond Trump's time in office. All right, now take a look at what else is making news here in India. The Punjab Police has launched a statewide investigation into complaints of alleged unauthorized camps for collecting personal data of citizens under the pretext of enrolling them in government schemes. And inquiry teams have been deployed across the state. The Uttarakhand Legislative Assembly has passed the Uttarakhand Minority Educational Institutions Bill on Wednesday. Sikhs, Jains, Christians, Parsis and Buddhist communities can now avail themselves of the benefits of minority status. Until now, the status of a minority educational institution was only given to the Muslim community. The Employees Provident Fund Organization released provisional payroll data for June 2025, revealing a net addition of 21.89 lakh members, which is the highest recorded addition since payroll data tracking began in April of 2018. And still to come on DD India Newshour, intense heat and devastating rainfall wreak havoc in different parts of the world. And Jammu and Kashmir is set to host the maiden Khelo India Water Sports Festival.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. India on Wednesday rejected allegations made by Bangladesh's interim government that anti-Bangladesh activities were being carried out from Indian territory by members of the Awami League. Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal said New Delhi was not aware of any anti-Bangladesh activities by purported members of the Awami League in India or of any action that is contrary to Indian law. Jaiswal also emphasized that India does not permit political activities targeting other countries to be conducted from its soil, calling the claims made in the Bangladeshi press statement misplaced. The Energy and Resources Institute hosted the 24th Darbari Said Memorial Lecture centered on innovative solutions for a sustainable future. Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari in his address underscored the urgent need to balance ecology with economic development. Highlighting India's strides in renewable energy, green infrastructure and eco-friendly transport systems. The minister said that sustainable models of growth are vital for safeguarding the environment while meeting the nation's development goals.
Innovation, entrepreneurship, science, technology, research, skilled and successful practices. We name it as knowledge, and conversion of knowledge into wealth is the future. And the other important philosophy is equally important, that no person is waste and no material is waste. It is depending upon the appropriate technology and appropriate vision of the leadership that you can convert waste into wealth.
The world is grappling with an unprecedented wave of extreme weather events. From a scorched earth to submerged cities, climate emergency is no longer a future concern. It's a present-day reality that's sweeping across continents, displacing thousands and leaving communities in crisis. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
Around the globe, the frequency and intensity of wildfires and floods are surging. Unrelenting heat waves, erratic climate patterns, and rising sea levels are fueling these disasters, leaving communities grappling with destruction and displacement. In Spain, a fierce wildfire in Jerez, Leon province, has scorched thousands of hectares, forcing evacuations and leaving devastation in its wake. French firefighters have joined Spain's military emergency unit, working tirelessly to contain the blaze. Meanwhile, across the border in Portugal, over 1,500 ground personnel and 14 aerial units are battling massive wildfires tearing through forested regions, with aerial footage revealing the apocalyptic aftermath. In the United States, Hurricane Irene has weakened to a Category 2 storm but remains a serious threat. Forecasters warn it could regain strength at its churn over the warm waters of the western Atlantic. Coastal residents are on high alert, bracing for potential intensification in the coming days. Japan is reeling from relentless rainfall, with northern regions hit hardest. Authorities have issued evacuation orders after torrential downpours swamped cities. In Odette City, a staggering 244.5 millimeters of rain fell in just 24 hours, turning streets into rivers and disrupting lives. In Asia, Pakistan's Karachi is paralyzed by torrential monsoon rains. The deluge has triggered massive traffic jams, submerged roads, and caused widespread power outages, bringing daily life in the bustling metropolis to a standstill. Heavy rains continue to cross India. The IMD has issued a red alert for parts of Maharashtra and an orange alert for Mumbai, where waterlogging has disrupted daily life and cancelled over 12 train services. In Himachal Pradesh, a cloudburst in Kullu has triggered floods and landslides, blocking 359 roads. Karnataka's Dharwad district has shut schools and colleges amid non-stop downpours. Authorities urge caution and minimal travel as extreme weather persists. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Kashmir's crown jewel, the Dal Lake, is set to take center stage as it will host the first ever Khelo India Water Sports Festival from 21st to 23rd of August. This landmark event marks Dal Lake's debut as a venue for national level water sports, with over 400 athletes from 36 states and union territories set to compete in rowing, kayaking and canoeing. Organized jointly by the Sports Authority of India and the Jammu and Kashmir Sports Council, the festival showcases the Sports Ministry's growing commitment to turning Jammu and Kashmir into a premier sports destination. This inaugural water sports carnival is part of a larger vision under the Khelo India Bharat initiative, which aims to expand India's sporting footprint from traditional stadia to unique natural landscapes.
प्रिपरेशन यहाँ पे खेलो इंडिया फर्स्ट अवर वाटर स्पोर्ट्स के लिए जोर शोर पे चल रही है। बच्चे यहाँ आए हैं, बच्चे अभी यहाँ पे प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं क्योंकि कल से उनके मेन इवेंट शुरू है। कल हमारी ओपनिंग सेरेमनी है। हमारे बच्चों के लिए बहुत अच्छा मौका है बिकॉज ऑल ओवर इंडिया से जो बेस्ट एथलीट्स है, नेशनल इंटरनेशनल एथलीट्स है, वो इनको खेलते देखेंगे, इनसे वो इंस्पिरेशन ले लेंगे और उनको भी पता लगेगा कि नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे कंपटीशन क्या है।
And now the news from the world of sport. In tennis, Iga Swiatek and Casper Ruud advanced to the semi-final of the US Open Mixed Doubles Championship. The pair advanced to the semi-final after they beat Madison Keys and Frances Tiafoe of the US in straight sets. They'll face Jessica Pegula and Jack Draper in the semi-finals, who secured an equally impressive win over Mira Andreeva and Daniil Medvedev. In the other semi-final, the Italian duo of Sara Errani and Andrea Vavasori will face a pair of Danielle Collins and Christian Harrison on Thursday. In chess, reigning world champion D. Gukesh beat Uzbek Grandmaster Nodirbek Abdusattorov on Wednesday in the second round of Chinquil Cup 2025. Gukesh bounced back from a first-round defeat to compatriot R. Praggnanandhaa and secured a much-needed win heading into the third round of the event. Playing with white pieces, Gukesh outplayed his opponent in a chaotic encounter that lasted 50 moves. Meanwhile, Praggnanandhaa played out a draw against US Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana. Praggnanandhaa is now in the joint lead of the tournament alongside French Grandmaster Ferozia and Levon Aronian of the US. To cricket now, Keshav Maharaj completed 300 wickets in international cricket as he claimed a 5-wicket haul to help South Africa register an emphatic win over Australia in the first ODI. With his very first ball, he beat Marnus Labuschagne's defence and removed him for just 1 run. Maharaj dismissed Cameron Green next, angling it in from wide of the crease before beating him on turn. Alex Carey was strapped sweeping while Aaron Hardy was bowled as Maharaj sealed his 5-wicket haul. In the first ODI, half-centuries from Aiden Markram and skipper Temba Bavuma had helped South Africa set a target of 297 runs. Australia was bowled out for just 198, with skipper Mitchell Marsh emerging as the top scorer with 88 of 96 balls. With this win, South Africa has taken a 1-0 lead in the 3-match ODI series. The second ODI will be played on Friday. And that's all for this edition of DD India Newshour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code that is now on your screen to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Newshour.